Hello, have you ever been injured while playing a sport? Do you know the science behind those injuries? Do you want to learn how to prevent them and recognize the warning signs before they happen? If so, keep listening. I'm Dr. George Ampat, a consultant orthopedic surgeon and work in Liverpool in United Kingdom. I would like to talk to you about viscoelasticity, a property in which a material behaves both like a viscous liquid and an elastic solid. Liquids can be viscous and solids can be elastic. Liquids such as honey are viscous. Solids such as rubber are elastic. Some substances contain both solid elastic components and liquid viscous components. When these characteristics combine, the material behaves as viscoelastic. Everyday examples of such materials include clay and Play-Doh, which can stretch slowly like a viscous fluid, but also hold their shape like an elastic solid. Most of the tissues in our bone and joint system are viscoelastic. They contain collagen, which is the solid component, and water, which is the liquid component. Let us look at the knee joint. At the top, we have the femur. Below it are the tibia and the fibula. In the front, we have the quadriceps muscle, which continues into the quadriceps tendon. This attaches to the kneecap or patella. From the patella, the patellar ligament attaches to the tibia. The femur, like all other bones, are viscoelastic. The hyaline cartilage that covers the ends of bones are also viscoelastic. The muscles are viscoelastic. The quadriceps tendon is viscoelastic. The patellar ligament is also viscoelastic. Really, the whole musculoskeletal system is made of materials that are viscoelastic. There are four important properties which are specific to viscoelastic materials, and they are creep, stress relaxation, hysteresis, and rate dependence. I will explain all this in detail. The first is creep. Creep is a gradual deformation of a material under constant load. In orthopedics, this explains why spinal discs slowly compress throughout the day and we become slightly shorter by the end of the day, and after we rest, we lengthen back to normal. So in the morning when we wake up, we are slightly taller. And as we stand and go through the day, we slowly lose a little height. The amount is very minimal. I've exaggerated it in the image, but this helps illustrate the effect of prolonged standing. In the evening when we lie down and rest to sleep, there is no more pressure on the discs and they expand and return to the original length or height. This same effect can occur in our knees. When we stand for prolonged periods, the cartilage in our knees changes shape. Initially, as we stand up, only a small area of the cartilage is in contact. However, if we continue standing for a long time, the cartilage that is in contact with each other slowly changes its shape and becomes more contoured to the opposing surface. This change of shape allows a greater area to come into contact. As the area of force transmission increases, the force per unit area or pressure decreases. This prevents cartilage wear and reduces the risk of arthritis. The second, stress relaxation. The second property is stress relaxation, which is the reduction of force when a material is stretched and held at a constant length. This is stress relaxation, which occurs only in viscoelastic materials and not in purely elastic ones. When a viscoelastic material is stretched and held in that position for an extended period, the tension decreases over time, even though the length remains constant. Imagine a slingshot with a rubber band or an elastic material. When you pull the rubber band, it becomes tight. By stretching it, you store potential energy in the rubber. When you release it, that stored energy is transferred to the shot, sending it forward. This is how a slingshot works. When the elastic material is stretched, it holds on to that energy. You can keep the rubber band pulled back for 1 second or for 20 seconds. Its stored energy does not meaningfully decrease during that time. Whether you release the shot immediately or after holding it for a while, it will travel the same distance. In other words, the amount of energy transferred from the stretched rubber to the shot is essentially the same regardless of how long the band is held back. But if you replace the rubber band with a ligament from the body, the behavior changes. A ligament is not purely elastic, it is viscoelastic. That means it loses energy over time when held in a stretched state. So if you build a slingshot from a ligament and pull it back, it would initially store energy just like a rubber band. But if you keep it stretched for 10 or 20 seconds, the stored energy would begin to decrease. When you finally release the ligament, the shot would not travel as far because some of that energy has been lost during the hold. This happens because viscoelastic materials gradually relax under sustained tension. In other words, when a viscoelastic material is held stretched for a long period, it loses part of the energy that was originally stored. But we know from physics that energy cannot be created or destroyed. So when a viscoelastic material is stretched and held for a long period, the lost energy is not disappearing. Instead, the energy that was originally stored as elastic potential energy is gradually absorbed by the ligament itself. The absorbed energy is converted into heat, causing the ligament to warm up. This is one reason why our tissues heat up during activity. While there are several factors that contribute to temperature increases during exercise, the stress relaxation that occurs in viscoelastic tissues like ligaments does play a role in warming those tissues. This leads to the next concept, hysteresis. Hysteresis is the energy that is lost during a loading and unloading cycle. This energy is not returned and is instead converted into heat. Tendons, for example, show hysteresis during repetitive activity, which affects the athletic performance and increases the risk of injury. Consider this illustration. In this illustration, stress and strain are being represented in simplified non-technical units. A ligament is 10 centimeters long at rest. We then apply a force of 120 kilograms and stretch it to 20 centimeters. Then we slowly release the stretch and the ligament returns to 10 centimeters. Let us make a table of the strain and stress values. For simplicity, let the strain be the length of the ligament and the stress be the weight attached to it. Measured in kilograms. In the table we see that the original length of the ligament is 10 centimeters and a weight is applied, it stretches to 20 centimeters. The stress column shows that the weight starts at 0 kilograms and increases up to 120 kilograms. Pulling with 120 kilograms increases the ligament's length from 10 centimeters to 20 centimeters. Then, when we slowly decrease the stress and the ligament gradually returns to its original 10 centimeter length, during this time, the weight also reduces from 120 kilograms back to 0 kilograms. If we now plot these values on a graph, we get a dotted curve. The y-axis represents stress from 0 to 120 kilograms, and the x-axis represents strain from 10 to 20 centimeters. As weight is applied and the ligament stretches, the plotted points form the blue curve. As the weight is slowly removed and the ligament returns to its original length, the plotted points form the brown curve. The area between the blue curve and the brown curve represents the amount of energy lost due to loading and unloading of the hysteresis loop. In the graph, we can see that during loading, it takes about 60 kilograms of force to stretch the ligament to 13 centimeters. However, during unloading, it only takes about 15 kilograms of force to hold the ligament at the same 13 centimeter length. Rate dependence. The final property is rate dependence. Materials respond differently depending on how quickly forces are applied. If you pull a ligament slowly, it stretches more. If you apply the same force rapidly, it becomes stiff and can break. For example, if you slowly stretch Play-Doh, it can lengthen a lot without breaking. But if you pull it suddenly, it snaps. The same happens with pizza dough. Stretch it slowly and it becomes a wide, flat pizza base. Pull it suddenly and it tears into two pieces. That is the effect of loading weight. Now let's look at some practical applications of viscoelasticity. The first is very important to prevent injury. That is stretching before activity. Stretching increases tissue length and allows stress relaxation. If a tissue is suddenly loaded without being properly stretched, such as jumping straight into a game without warming up, the risk of ligament rupture is higher. Slow, gradual stretching before exercise or play helps prepare the joint and reduces the risk of sports injuries. Many sports injuries can be prevented if participants warm up and stretch before the main sporting activity. Second, in orthopedic surgery, this image shows a total hip replacement in which the natural hip joint is replaced with an artificial ball and socket joint. The artificial ball is attached to a stem that must be inserted into the narrow cavity of the thigh bone. Preparing the femur and inserting the stem is a slow, controlled process. If the bone is prepared too quickly, or if the stem is driven in rapidly, the femur can fracture. When the preparation and insertion are done gradually, the bone is able to undergo stress relaxation, making it far less likely to break during the procedure. Correcting deformities like clubfoot. In surgery and orthopedics, restoring alignment often depends on the viscoelastic properties of tissues. A good example is the Ponseti method of treating clubfoot. The image shows a clubfoot, a congenital deformity present at birth in some children. Even with major advances in orthopedic surgery, this condition is best corrected through serial casting. The deformity is gradually corrected over time with a small amount of adjustment made at each casting. Slowly, over several weeks and months, the foot is guided back towards a normal position. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please write them in the comments below. I would love to interact with you. And please like, share and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Goodbye. See you next time.